Hey.
How's everybody doing?
I don't know why I felt I had to do that.
You just felt you had to do that. Did
felt
you
like I
ever
had
watch that
to.
cartoon? I
No.
think it was Fat Albert or something like that.
Yeah, it's Fat Albert. I've never seen a
single
second
one.
of it. It's just one of those hey things. It's just part of the zeitgeist.
The zeitgeist, the cultural milieu. Where it's just everywhere. And even though you've never seen an episode, you're like, everyone knows what I mean when I do this.
Yeah, exactly. It's a weird thing.
Maybe our generation, or I don't think the newer generation has any idea.
Nah, not really.
No, they'd have no idea. Well, you could say Biker Mice from Mars, and they're like, what is that? Wasn't there a shark one, too?
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
Was it Street Sharks?
Street Sharks?
I remember they had some pretty freaking sick action figures.
Oh, yeah. But here's the thing. Captain Planet, Street Sharks, and Biker Mice from Mars, all environmentally pushing masculine dudes pushing environmentalism.
Back when environmentalism had some balls to it.
Yeah. Did you watch Captain Planet?
Oh yeah, totally.
And now
Did it work as propaganda? No,
Not at all.
it certainly did not.
it's a joke and it's hilarious, but awesome. But we care about the environment, but not enough to actually do something. I do. I've seen some horrible videos. Somebody's like, "Oh, Angry Earth thing," and it showed people literally dumping garbage bins of stuff into the ocean, and I'm like, that's horrible. That's real. Like, that makes me like, don't do that. That's bad.
Yeah, I feel like you don't have to be you don't have to be like fully indoctrinated into the
environmental movement.
the environmental religion in order for you to look at something and be like, you know what, that's a really shitty thing to do. I think we probably should not do that.
I think there's
There's gotta be a better way. Like, you could just be generally in some way intelligent and get to the same point.
And it's ugly too. It's like you're watching it and you're like, I feel wrong about this, and I can't do anything except for this and say that's wrong.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. So everyone knows where we stand on the environment.
Fuck it. No, I mean...
I did have a JW show up to my house way back in the day, and he had this whole "the world's getting worse" spiel. And I'm like, yeah, I know, it's great. And he's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the Bible's very clear. It says that the world will still be here when Jesus gets back. So if we fuck it up, like just really go whole hog on this thing, it forces him to come back sooner.
Oh, wow. What did he say in regards to that?
He had no idea what to say. He's like, it was great. I enjoy those. I'm an asshole.
Like, talk about seeing your opening and taking a shot. Like, holy shit. Like, that's playing on your toes right there.
I love having those JWs come over, and I know that they're getting their little their points in.
Yeah.
Because they actually keep strong recordings on how much they reach out to people. And so if you reach out to somebody and you have a conversation, you record how long your conversation is, and you had to send that into headquarters. And yeah, I find that very interesting. I'm like, I'm upping your points and I get to make fun of you while I do it. It's fine. We're good.
Oh my gosh, just mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's incentivized.
It's
cross religions.
It's a victimless crime to sit there and fuck with them.
Yeah.
As long as you want to.
As
You're
the
doing them a favor, and you get to fuck with them. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
You didn't know that?
No. No, this changes everything.
It changes everything. They get to up their scorecard, possibly, up their ranks in their what do they call it? What do they call their churches? Their temple?
Temple, yeah.
Yeah. They get to up their numbers and be like, hey, look, I'm StarCraft number 4 now. I don't know what they...
Let's just throw all the weird religions into one pot.
Just Scientology, all of them, just throw them all into one.
The temple of Scientology of Latter-day Mormons.
So I realize I feel like we haven't recorded in a while. I know it's only been a week, but it felt like a long week. Like we could have recorded in this last week, and I'm like, because we have a couple in the back burner, which sets in place like, oh, we don't have to push a recording right now.
No, we still do every week though.
We do, but I'm like, I still want to record more. It's really bad, but good. It's like I like doing this.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I feel like I've been doing more than my usual because I've been over at Dusty's place trying to work at conceptualizing and writing theme music and stuff for my podcast. So like there's, it's never enough time with the family involved. So
did we tap into that a little bit last time?
Hour here and a little hour there.
Did we tap into that conversation a little bit last time with the metal one?
No, we didn't actually.
So you're working on your music, your intro music, because that's something I care about intro music. I want music that's like, even the intro that we have. Yeah. I love it. It's so good. It's original. It's cool. It sounds like, now when I hear that, I know what's coming up next. It's hey, what's going on?
Oh, it's BCP time.
Yeah. So there's a certain point of pride when it comes to having good music, and now you're working on your intro music for your podcast that you're hoping to release next couple months.
And hopefully we're going to record an episode of it right after this.
Yes. So we're just creating content for it, and you've been working on, but you heard it, and you and him are like, you and him, I'm hoping, are inspired, because there's something you're like, okay, I know this is just for an intro, but I want to turn this into something.
Well, it started off as, hey, do you want to do my intro music? And he's like, yeah, sure, that sounds like a fun challenge that I haven't done before. And then, like a whole number of weeks went by, and then both of us hadn't really done anything. It was like we just hit a mode of work and stress, and didn't have room, in our bandwidth. Didn't have bandwidth really to do anything creative. Yeah. And then he's like, okay, well, do you have we need something to jumpstart my creativity here. Do you have a phrase or something? give me something more than just intro music that you want it to be. Yeah. So I gave him a couple notes, a couple pointers, and I was thinking trying to make it sound ancient and esoteric. Yeah. And he was like, ooh, that sounds fun. But just didn't really spark anything. Yeah. And so we actually got together and started fiddling around with things, and then stumbled on something that sounded cool, and then sent us on a whole different direction, which turned us into basically trying to write a small song. Yeah. Only a little bit of it will be for the...
But you are going to release the whole song eventually.
Oh man, I hope we can write a whole song.
Just write a whole song. I think
the riff and the groove that he came up with is good enough to use as the backbone for a stoner doom metal song.
I'm actually I have heard none of any of it, so I'm actually really excited to.
We'll put it on here after.
Ooh, you got to hear then.
Yeah. Nice. No. They're not going to hear here.
Oh no. That's what I mean. No, I understand. You have it here.
Yeah, I have it here. I have it on my phone.
Ooh. All right, so I'll get to hear it. And
you guys because I need to practice my vocal lines because I'm a pretty shit singer. So I need to practice my vocal lines so that we can get some salvageable takes of the lyric that we want to be in the intro.
Do you need to take a microphone with you? He has a microphone? Or?
Oh, he's got all the recordings set up. Oh yeah.
I haven't seen a setup, so it's I have no idea. I just know that he has a...
He's never recorded vocals, so we're experimenting with how to correctly capture that sound. And he's actually pretty flippin' good at putting things together and producing and actually splicing everything together. I'm very happy with his talent.
Yeah, and he's been on this podcast a couple times, and I've heard people come to me and be like, hey man, quality-wise for your podcast, for what it is, you guys are really good. Yeah. We don't sound like shit. We don't sound like we're in an echoey room, because I would listen to podcasts and I'll turn them off. I will turn off a podcast if it sounds like shit. You might have great content, but if you sound horrible, it's really hard for me to take it seriously.
Yeah, but it's different. It's so different than my experience with him trying to track vocals for singing is compared to this. It's night and day different. It's a whole different deal. It's here we want everything just to be calm, clear, bassy. Yeah. Your voice. you're not trying to compete with a whole metal track, for presence, and make it sound more than just like some half-cut guy at a bar, like
doing karaoke,
warbling during karaoke, right? Like, you want to produce it and give it like a certain amount of effects, find the right places to sit in the mix.
Yeah.
And all that is proving to be a bitch, to put it lightly.
So you've gained a whole new respect for the recording industry.
Yeah, like even just like how many takes he's doing on the guitar or on the bass to get the groove and the right, just the right performance to get it in. It's like so many takes. Like he's put more hours into this podcast than I have by a factor of 100 at this point.
Really?
Yeah. Right now it's more his than mine.
That's awesome. I love Dusty. He's good shit. I can't wait to release that episode. I think by the time this is out, that'll be out. But yeah. So, that is something you're working on, and I'm excited. I've come up with a name that's for mine. I still want to do other things.
Isn't this weird that, like, at this point we've been doing this for a year, and like we don't want to stop doing this, but
in fact, I think
we're increasing we're increasing our scope.
Yeah,
it's like crazy.
We're like, hey, no, I don't just. But then I realized I got to get some new intro music for my other one too. I'm like, shit, I just want motorcycle sounds. I do. I want motorcycle sounds, and then
that's awesome. You should just bring a microphone out to your bike.
I thought about it. I really did. Like, let it warm up, get it all going, and then I'll go out there when it's quiet and turn it on.
No, we need to find Joey with Blackie and get the sound of it.
Yeah, that
like,
thing is barely starting.
Yeah.
I love that bike. Joey's a really good friend of ours, brother. And
Bunny.
He's got a Harley, and we call it Blackie, and it is
the prettiest bike I know.
It is ugly, pretty, awesome. Like it's got it's so much character.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's gonna fall apart underneath you.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a shovel head. But it's an older Evo, one that's been jacked with and punched up and messed with before he ever got it.
Yeah, he got it jacked with.
It's a fat boy that's been like lowered to the ground, so there's like no cornering clearance.
Yeah, ape hangers.
The ape hangers are ridiculously tall. The feet are forward. There's no support in the seat at all. Like you're holding onto the bike to keep your ass from sliding off of it. And it's a real pain in the ass to drive, and I love it. I love every second of being on it I ever had.
It's underpowered. There's so much noise for how slow you go, but it's awesome.
I want one. I want a really pretty, loud, shitty bike so bad.
High performance motorcycles are overrated.
Well, the thing with high performance motorcycles is they're more bike than 99% of the riders that are on them can use.
Oh yeah.
And as soon as you try to use that performance, you get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
There's something to be said for it. It's more fun to go fast on a slow bike than it is to go slow on a fast bike.
Yeah, I have a brother, and he got, I'm not going to name drop because I don't do that, but he got a very powerful bike. And in the straight stretch, he could tear off on me. He could just pull away, no problem in the straight stretch. But with every straight stretch, there's a corner. And whenever it came to the corner, he had to slow right down because he could not perform the same way that I could on my bike. And I would pass him. I'd catch up to him. I would pass him, and I would kill him in the corners. But then the straight stretch would come. Yeah. And it doesn't take a whole lot of talent to twist a wrist. Sorry to say.
Yeah. Now, that being said, like taking corners like that on a crotch rocket or like a supermoto or something is a whole different thing. And in that case, it's very, very fun to go fast on a fast bike. Because when it can handle taking corners that hard, that fast, and do it, and that's an addictive feeling.
Yeah.
If you have the confidence to do it, knowing if you mess up, you're going to die.
Yes. Yeah.
But
and that's the thing. And I don't have that confidence
There's so many variable factors on a road that make that a very risky,
super risky
thing to do.
So sometimes it's balls, sometimes it's wisdom.
And when you're the father of
Many children.
a whole gaggle of children, like at some point too, you need to be thinking bigger picture than I can make that corner.
I can make that corner. And I've seen people not make corners, and it sucks. I've been watching some of these crotch rocket videos from the Isle of Man stuff. And
Oh my God.
When they go down, holy shit. Like,
Yeah.
in the air, flying for 100 yards.
In all honesty, though, that's a race I would love to go to.
I'd love to watch it. I really want to so bad.
Like 100%, like that's a bucket list thing to go witness. And you know what the great thing is? During the week of the TT, they take that whole road around the Isle of Man and close it off to trucks and cars and leave it open for everyday bikers
Really?
to ride.
I feel like I would get in the way. I'm my skill level where it's at. I would just get in the way. I would never be able to ride it. I would love to ride it.
No, I mean, you would be fine. Like, not everybody uses it as a racetrack. They just go there in order to twist a wrist, have some fun, see some sights without traffic.
That'd be great. Oh, that's a bucket list, man. So it's for me. It's right up there with Daytona weekend, and those really big bike rallies that eventually I would love to go to one, but I don't think I'd ever want to do it again. I'd be looking at motorcycles the whole time.
I don't know. Like, some of them seem like they'd be a pretty fun time. Like, there's some big concerts and shit that happen at, like, Sturgis.
That's the other one.
And Daytona and all those, plus bike shows, plus, like, big, cool things that motorcycle companies drop on those weekends, or various rides you get to go to. I think Daytona might be the lamest of them because you're just in Daytona. Like, if you don't like partying on the strip, then what are you going to do? At Sturgis, you've got the Black Hills to ride.
Oh, yeah, I guess. Yeah, that's the one that I was thinking of. I was like, there's other ones, but I'm horrible with names because I'm horrible with names, and that's okay. But yeah, I've got a few bucket list things, including that road in Oregon that I showed you there. It looks like it's on-road, off-road kind of thing. There's that mountain pass.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gorgeous. Mm-hmm. Some of the roads that we have, and they're less than 24 hours away from here. Like,
I'd take any one of my bikes on that road.
Yeah.
I'd do it.
Mostly because I don't care about my bikes. I think I'd worry that it would be too slow. I really do want to get a Sportster or a Dyna and just put some dirt nubbies on it and just have some fun. Just something that you can take on-road, off-road, and like really explore terrain and not worry about the bike itself. That's why a Sporty 1200 might be just the perfect motorcycle to do that kind of crazy, stupid stuff. And it's a 1200. It's fine. It's good. It's got enough power. Well, simultaneously, you don't need tons. It's a good power to weight ratio. It's a good motor. So, so many bucket lists. So many things I haven't done.
Well, let's transition into some stuff that you have done.
Yes. Now, we have multiple times interviewed Devin.
Well, we've done it one time officially, but sometimes it turns that way.
Yeah.
About my faith journey or deconstruction or coming back to faith, those kind of things.
Yeah.
But we've never really delved into where you came from and how that translates into where you're at now with your faith and practice.
Yeah. The thing is, it is one of those things of, I have such I want to call it a long story because I didn't grow up in one town like most people. So I have so many stories of things that I've done. Stupid shit, fun shit, just so many things that unless something reminds me of an occasion, I almost see no reason to bring it up.
Yeah,
I'm quite sure you understand.
Oh, I think that's just life in general.
Yeah.
Like, unless something's fresh in your mind, like this is a phase that I'm going through, and here's some things I can remember that pertain to it. But just to be like, hey, let's talk about your childhood. Like, I'd be like, what the hell is there to tell? I don't know.
What do you mean by that? That's too big. That's so many years. And so
it's like we don't have like a record of it like Pippi Longstocking.
And one of my biggest problems is that I have so many stupid stories that whenever somebody says a story that kind of reminds me of them, I'm like, I have something that relates to that, but I don't want to sound like I'm one-upping.
You don't want to be that.
I want to accent your story with my story. Yours is probably better. There was probably really cool things happening. but here's what happened in mine, and that it brings forth more conversation. I really enjoy that stuff.
Well, let's maybe to frame the conversation a little bit here. Let's start with the remark you made that brought it up. Mm-hmm. Like we were talking about activity in church, and somebody close to you basically questioning you, being like, hey, what's the deal? You don't come to prayer meetings, you don't come to prayer summits or worship nights. Like, what is the deal?
Yeah.
And you said that kind of nonchalantly, and then that piqued my interest. I'm like, what is the deal?
Well, I could just turn it around, but that's not the goal today. I'm not going to be like, I don't know, why don't you go to church, Devin?
We've already been over that.
I know, and it's lazy.
Everybody knows.
It's instead of actually answering the question, I can always deflect, but I'm not going to this time. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my background then.
Okay.
We can't just jump into
I just wanted to give people an idea of what even got us on this topic, and why you're going to start reminiscing about the past.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm not going to go into detail in every single place because I don't remember most of them. But
yes, because kids are dumb and they don't remember things.
You don't remember things. And even if you do remember them, you're not remembering them correctly. You're not remembering what actually happened. You're remembering what you think happened.
Oh, like Peter Griffin with like the prostate exam.
Yes.
It's like, are you sure it was a routine medical checkup?
Are you sure it wasn't
black and white and scary?
Guilty.
Exactly.
All right. So if I ask you a question really quick, where'd you grow up?
I grew up here in Fort St. John, British Columbia.
Yes. Do you know my answer to that question?
Everywhere?
Everywhere.
Nowhere?
Everywhere and nowhere simultaneously. Yeah. I don't have a hometown. I don't get to say, oh, I grew up here. I don't have that base of understanding where people can judge me according to, okay, you're from this area, so you bring forth these characteristics with you.
Your hometown is where you've lived your adult life, essentially, at this point, right?
I've lived in Fort St. John longer than I've lived anywhere else in my entire life. I've been here since 2006, so 16 years I've lived in Fort St. John. That's the longest.
That is a long time to live someplace.
Oh, yeah.
But considering, like, you had no place to formatively grow up and form yourself is interesting.
Yeah.
Because that's just so opposite of my, experience.
Yeah. So I was born in Ontario, Dryden, Ontario, tiny little town. It's got one guy who used to play for St. Louis Blues. That's his claim to fame. It's like, we had a guy play in the NHL, which is a lot of towns in Canada where there's nothing really going on there except for one player made it out. And from there, went to Saskatchewan, a small, tiny little town, really kind of a shithole.
Okay, sorry. I thought you said Saskatoon.
No,
I was
Saskatchewan.
Like, that's not a tiny little town.
No. We never lived in Saskatoon. That was the oddest thing. Lived in a tiny little town in Saskatchewan, northern. It's called Nipawin.
Okay.
Tiny little shithole. It's fine. I've been there. I have no desire to ever go back. There's like, I have a cousin there, a couple cousins. That's about it. We lived there for a couple years, and then we moved from there to. I want to make sure I get this correct. I think we moved from there to Alberta, which is McLennan High Prairie area. It was a farm, which is near where my father grew up. And so we kind of lived around that area. And we moved from there to a smaller town. We keep moving from like small town to small town to a place called Punachai. And we lived there for a few years. Hold on, there was a switch back and forth there. We lived in Dryden, then Nipawin, then back to Dryden, and then... I don't know. We've been everywhere.
Okay.
And then we lived in a small town called Punachai. And it was a tiny village surrounded by 4 reservations. I got beat up for being white, which is not, that's our thing. As white people, we beat people up for being the wrong skin color. So I really feel like they were stealing my culture.
Are you sure it wasn't just because you have a really, really punchable face?
And a big mouth.
And a big mouth.
Probably the big mouth. Yeah.
I'm just throwing it out there.
Could be. And I'm fine with that. I'm all right. There were some years there that were just fun, and I still have a friend from there. Well, he's actually around the Regina area, but I have no idea what he's up to. I don't know anything about him anymore, but for a long time, that was the place I saw myself kind of learned quite a bit. And then from there, we went to the big city of Prince Albert, which is a dirty, dirty town now. It's really bad.
Mm-hmm.
A little shithole. Again,
Saskatchewan, right?
Again, Saskatchewan, yeah. And then from Prince Albert, we moved all the way to Quebec. And then we went there as missionaries. And, yeah.
So what was the driving force for moving from place to place to place so often?
Okay, from my understanding...
At least in Saskatchewan.
In Saskatchewan, it was... the early years, my dad was a youth pastor and a pastor. So he was like, when it came to Ontario, he was a youth leader, associate pastor kind of thing. And then same thing going back to Alberta. From my remembering was to be involved with the church, to be close to family, because his family was here. And from there, my father became a pastor in a small town in Saskatchewan. Again, pastor work. Really tiny village of a very underserved community. There wasn't a whole lot going on there. And so we were just moving according to the pastoral leadings of my father. But Punachai apparently had a very dark thing about it. There was like very little hope. We were not going to be moving forward. Not a whole lot going on that was good. And so from my remembering was, this town, we need to get out of here. And so we moved to Prince Albert, which is not much better. But my mother grew up around there.
Mm-hmm.
And so we had family in that area. They had a good Christian school, and they recognized that my schooling wasn't going well. Not just me, but my siblings as well. But schooling was not going well. So it was to get my family in a better situation. My dad had more opportunities for work outside of, well, he still worked within the church, but not for the church. He wasn't like a minister anymore.
Okay.
So he kind of walked away from that job to go there. I don't know what happened to that place. I haven't thought about it. After Punachai, we just got there, and I have no idea what happened to the church. I don't remember any kind of transitioning period. I just remember getting out of Dodge.
Yeah.
And being in Prince Albert, my father continued to work. We were there for, I want to say, 6 or 7 years. So
okay.
it wasn't
How old were you at that time?
We got there when I was... I want to say 11 or 12. It had to be 11 because I remember I was in 1992. I was in Punachai because for some reason 1992 like really jumped out to me. I'm like, oh, I can't believe it's 1992. That's a crazy year. I don't know why. Montreal won the cup, and I think Toronto Blue Jays won the World Series. I love sports because that's what we had. That's all we had.
Okay, so at that time, you actually were invested in watching sports.
As a small child, like 9, 10 years old, I was watching sports, and so we were there until the year 2000. So we were in Prince Albert till the year 2000 because I remember I went to a New Year's party there when they flashed off the lights because, hey, this is a funny thing to do.
Of course, every
youth group.
Every youth group, every New Year's party that year did that whole thing.
Yeah, they're like, we need to go into the middle of nowhere and turn the lights off. So
I'd have been more impressed if they'd managed to make the toaster sentient and started attacking people.
I think they made a movie about that. Did you see that movie?
I remember a Simpsons sketch of that movie.
Do you know what's really funny about that? The girl who does the voice for Lisa was actually in that movie.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so that's probably the cross connection there. What was the name of that stupid movie? I'm not going to remember it. But yeah, there was that movie where the toasters came alive and tried to attack people.
So anyway, year 2000.
Year 2000, and then a couple years later, we moved to... No, a year later, like within the year 2000, maybe the year after, we moved to Quebec to be missionaries because my father felt called... Like, he went to Quebec. So I really felt like Saskatchewan's my home. That's Prince Albert's my home. That's where my friends are. That was like 14, 15 years old.
Okay, so like, those were formative years.
Formative years. They were like, oh, this is what I'm about. And I started becoming more of who I thought I was going to be. So I started becoming cooler. I started actually getting invited to parties. I started making friends. Girls started not ignoring me. Mm-hmm. And so then my parents were like, no, we're going to move. We're going to go on a mission trip to Quebec. So my parents came to Quebec, or went to Quebec, did this mission trip, came back, said, we're moving to Quebec. I'm like, I don't want to move to that shithole. I don't know. Why would I want to move there? All my friends are here.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's a kind of a shitty time to move.
Yeah.
Like, as a kid.
As a kid, yeah. Like, those are the golden years
Yeah.
of friends and everything else.
Like, oh man, I couldn't imagine like that. Those were my heyday years as a kid.
Yeah.
Was that, that mid, like, between about 14 and getting my driver's license. Like, that was just the glory years.
Beer.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, those were my formative years when I was like really coming into my own, and then getting told, "Hey, we're moving to Quebec." So I still wasn't getting ahead in schooling. Like, the whole idea here was get the kids ahead in schooling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting thrown out of the public system into the private system, which is ACE, Accelerated Christian Education, and then back out of that into a public sector of education in Quebec,
Mm-hmm.
where now, by the end of it, you need to be able to speak and understand French fluently in order to graduate.
Whew.
So
So basically you're getting thrown into French immersion.
That's the thing. It's not even a French immersion school. If it was French immersion, I maybe would have had a chance, but
Okay.
it was half French, half English. So it was like going to a regular English school in Quebec, where the standard is you must learn French in order to graduate.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of cool. Made some really quick friends. I don't know, looking back, I'm like, oh, these are very liberal people. Like, their parents were artists, and these people went on to, be very fluffy commies. And they're great guys. I love some of them to death to this day. But my friend circle had evolved very dramatically. It went from dirt bikes in the back 40 or whatever to, oh, we're going to go hang out at the basketball court, go play there, or just, go to the beach, and just very different from what I was used to, because we didn't have that.
Yeah, well, no longer is redneck.
No, I was the redneck of my friends, and I probably got made fun of it, but I don't remember it. It was like playful enough that they were like, oh no, you're cool, you're all right. And I was able to have friends in that way and adapt, and it turned out all right. But I had this idea of, my goal is to move back. My goal is to move back to Quebec, or back to Saskatchewan. So
home.
my mentality at that time was just get back, survive a few years, turn 18, move back to Saskatchewan.
Mm-hmm.
And in those few years, things change. You no longer feel like you have to. Your friends that you thought were back in Saskatchewan, they've all moved on too. And so, yeah, I no longer had that desire, but I wanted to still be part of something, so I got involved with the friends there. I adopted their ideas. Music had a huge thing on me, because the music scene in the Ottawa area was great. Because Montreal's 2.5 hours away, they had a huge music scene. I went to go see Zayo there. I went to go see Trivium, Devil Driver, and In Flames in a show as well. Didn't actually pan out, but I got to go to some great shows. So I got to have all these friends, and just everything adapt. I got a little bit of jiu-jitsu at this one place, but not like Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Got into drama.
You were a thespian.
I was a thespian. No, I just got into a drama class, did really good, and then, little Christianese circles that do little sketches and for churches and for outreach programs. I got into those, and I got pretty good at them. I wrote a few. We performed them. I just kind of got into those circles of performative arts, and I even ran a drama program at a camp. That I was asked to, hey, do you want to come run this program? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm like 17, 18, got my own car, which is abnormal for them. Not everyone has a car out there. They're like, oh, no, I take a bus. Why would I don't need a car. Somebody else has a car. Where in in Saskatchewan, Ontario, or anywhere west of Manitoba, it's like, no, the car is a rite of passage. You haven't grown up until you get a car. Like,
yeah, exactly. Because, probably half your friends live 45 minutes away, and there's no bus to get to them.
Yeah.
So if you want to have any kind of agency, you need a car.
Yeah, where there wasn't that in Quebec. Like, I got a car because I still had that leftover idea of, no, you get a car.
Yeah.
You get your license as soon as you can, and you get a car. My brother, not so much. He's like, no, just take the bus. And then he did this really cool thing. He's like, oh, I'm going to ride my bike to Kingston. Because we lived in Ottawa.
Like a bicycle?
Bicycle. He was going to ride a bicycle to Kingston, Ontario, which is, I think, 2.5 hours away. And I'm like, all right, cool, have fun.
Mm-hmm.
He's young, he's good enough shape, whatever. He did not get very far. And so he calls us that night. He's like, yeah, I made it to Kingston. I'm like, oh, snap, good job, man. Did it one day. Cool. Mm-hmm. No, he didn't.
He hitchhiked?
He hitchhiked. Little shithead. I had
cheater.
No idea for years.
For years? Oh, man.
Years, I had no idea. I'm like, I thought you did it.
He was going to own that and take the clout, hey?
Mm-hmm. But I guess he's like, oh, didn't I tell you? No, yeah, I totally.
Yeah.
I just got a ride. I got a pretty, like, I don't know, 45 minutes out of Ottawa. So 40-minute drive out of Ottawa. He just got tired.
Yeah.
He started hitchhiking. I'm like, oh.
I don't know why, but in hearing, bits and pieces of your past over time, I've heard various parts of these before, but never like in one continuous string of like, this is the ballad of Little Mike. So I always thought of you living in Quebec longer. Mm-hmm. I always thought of you growing up there as a smaller kid.
No, and that's the thing. A lot of people get that perception because for a long time it's where you're from. It's like, well, I lived in Quebec before. Well, I lived Quebec before I lived here. Now, a lot of people, they get offended if you ask them where they're from. Like, if they're any kind of skin color other than white, and you ask them where they're from, it's like, oh, you don't think I'm Canadian? If I ask you that, I'm asking everybody that, Fort St. John. And it's very seldom that I get the answer, oh, I'm from Fort St. John.
Oh, yeah. Like, here, everybody comes here from other places to make money.
Yeah, New Brunswick, Newfoundland, Quebec.
Sometimes they wind up transplanting. But, I mean, if you just walk down the street and ask people where they're from, it'd be very, very few that say born and raised here. Yeah.
And it's really funny that I know a handful of people already. And I'm like, oh, I know enough people here that are from here. But I think they're few and far between. They're if you were going predominantly on what is actually the numbers, you're not a huge group.
Yeah, so when you ask somebody where you're from here, it's a normal question.
Yeah, it's not offensive. It's not like, oh, you typical white male. Like, no. So, and being from Quebec, I feel confident in saying, yeah, where are you from? Because I know where I'm from. I know where I came from. I know what ideas I brought with me. Now, I always thought, when I moved here from Quebec in 2006, so I lived there from 2001. I want to say 2001. It might have been 2000 to 2006. I brought culture with me. I was like, this place has no culture. I come from a place with stone walls. I don't know why, but stone architecture just carries forth this idea of culture. It's like we're older. And it just makes you a pretentious douchebag.
I'm not arguing with you.
On either end. It does bring more culture, but it makes you a douchebag for pointing it out.
Oh. That's funny. Did you feel that way about Saskatchewan? Like where you came from before you went to Quebec?
Well, here's the thing. I think I waited like 2 years before going. We visited Saskatchewan halfway, like once in a while. And so, but when we came from Quebec back to Saskatchewan just for a friend's trip, like just to go see some people, I brought a huge attitude. Like, I just had this really shitty attitude, like, oh, this primitive people. Oh, okay. Look, that McDonald's
so you did
like
have that
barn.
Generally over the West.
Oh, yeah. I had this whole idea over the West of just, I'm better. Like, I've seen things now. I'm a little more cultured. I've hang out with people that speak a different language. And, yeah, I just, looking back, I'm ashamed of who I was. Because I was like, no, you're just an asshole. You're not, you don't speak, I didn't speak a second language. Just because I hung out with people that spoke a different language doesn't make me better.
I never put together the symmetry before, but you went to Quebec to bring Jesus there and came back out west to bring culture here.
I came west to get work. But that's the thing.
That's just a side effect of living in culture.
That's right. Again. That's great. You might have culture, but you're broke. But here's the thing: when we did go to Quebec, my dad's like, "We're here as missionaries." I'm like, "Cool, all right, I'm in." Like when I went to school, no Bible study at the school, nothing biblical related. I'm going to start a Bible study. I started a Bible study in a school that was, for its school, quite large. I think we had 700, 800 students in this school, and there was another school in town, not too far away, and they had just as many, if not more, students. But I started doing it. I'm like, okay, no, if we're doing this as a family, my dad was like, oh, my kids are doing more ministry than I am. Because it just kind of turned into that. I'm like, no, if we're doing this, we're doing this. I knew my faith. I knew what I thought I believed at the time. And I thought I understood it as deep as I could. And so I got to carry that with me. And so, yeah, I started it. I didn't just tag along. If I'm going to be here, I'm going to do it. And so, yeah, I kind of got whole hog. I was just in it. So, yeah, coming away from that after, like I got my license, got a little more rebellious, quit school, got into drinking.
Okay, so you went from full on missionary mentality to going native, as they say.
Yeah. Thing is, I didn't recognize it. I didn't recognize it happening while it was happening. Isn't that the way it is? You don't know you're going through it until you're halfway in, and you're like, "Oh shit, I'm going through a transition here." Except you don't see yourself going through it. You're just living life. Everything's fine. Everything's good. You still have the same friends. You're still hanging out with the people from youth group. But now you drink. But now you're not going to church because you're busy working. I did sales. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
I was doing door-to-door sales for a little while, and I was pretty good at it.
Oh, yeah, you can talk.
Yeah, I got a gift of gab. Sometimes people wish I would just shut the fuck up.
Unless you're listening to this podcast. At that point, you've just accepted that this is your life now, listening to Mike talk.
Yeah. I wonder if people go through phases like we do with Joe Rogan, where they're like, I need to take a break.
I hope they do.
I hope so.
I hope they do.
Yeah.
It would be really weird to be thought of as like, I can't miss Guru.
I can't miss it.
Yeah, that'd be strange.
That would be. So yeah, I just kind of got into drinking, and I just kind of lost my way, but I recognized it almost really quickly because I got really good at sales, and I was making good money, but I was drinking so much and just not really having any kind of direction. Actually, looking back, I didn't drink that much, but I didn't have any direction. Like, I had no reason. I was just doing it because my dad said, get a job or go to school. And I was like, well, I'm going to go get a job then. And I got a good job, and I got paid pretty good for it. And, yeah, they wanted to be like, hey, we want to up our sales, so we got to inspire our people. What do you want in life? Make a list of 5 things and you will get it. And I looked at this list of things. I didn't want a car. I had a car. It was fine. I didn't want big house because I'm like, what? I just felt completely aimless. And so I went to the boss, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta go, man. Like, I can't do this. He's like, yeah, but your sale numbers are good. Like, you're in a bit of a rut right now, but I believe in you. Take a week off, relax. So I went and did some construction with my dad for work, did a little landscaping. I don't remember what I was doing. But I was doing just manual labor. But I got re-inspired. I'm like, I love working with my hands. I don't like just talking all the time or trying to sell people an idea that I don't know if I actually believe with what I was
Unless
selling.
we're podcasting.
Which case, I'll sell you Satanism. Have that conversation. So yeah, I got kind of reinvigorated with I know what I want to do. I want to work with my hands. I want to hang out with friends. I want to have family. But I was still drinking on the side, and it was fine. But I had it all under control. And so, yeah, I just got re-inspired. Went in there covered in dirt. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they're like, you're not coming back. I'm like, nah, I'm good, thanks. And so, yeah, that was the first time I'd quit a job that I was pretty good at.
Yeah. So in this time, what's going on with your general practice of faith, your spirituality? Like, how was that forming? Because, like, this is what this is the stage of life that sends you back off into the West, you know, as your own man.
Well, I kind of got into this rut of being a good person for a little while. Like I'm doing good. I'm exploring my faith and all these things, and then I started to recognize that I was starting to have a bit of a problem with the drinking, because any money I'd make, I'd pay my rent, pay my bills, drink the rest. And I didn't see it happening, but other people were starting to see it in me. And so I went to a party one time and like, hey, you want some orange juice? Because I bought a bottle of orange juice. I don't know why. I just wanted orange juice. So I'm sitting there drinking orange juice. It's like, what's in there? I'm like, orange juice. It's like, oh, just orange juice? I'm like, yeah, just orange juice. But there was this idea of what I was up to. Mm-hmm. And I saw, I'm like, oh, this is how people see me now. They just see me as a drunkard, or they just see me as a drinker. And I'm like, okay, this is not who I want to be. And then I was watching people around me growing and moving and doing things. And I'm like, I don't want to be stagnant. I don't want to just sit here and just be known for this one thing. So in that moment, I quit drinking completely. And I was like, okay, that's it. And then I learned a little guitar. I was playing guitar. I'd go to parties and just hang out with people, and I was good. And then I had this movement in my life where my brother, he moved out, when he moved to Fort St. John. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, cool, you're dead. Like, I just thought he was good. I thought Fort St. John is super cowboy. He's going to come out here, die. That's it. I'm all right, cool. I was fine with it. I shouldn't have been as fine with it as I was.
Catch you on the other side, bro.
I was like, oh, all right, cool. Good luck.
Yeah.
And then he was making good money up here while simultaneously doing something. And I just was getting back into the worship. I was getting back into my prayer life and just reigniting what I was passionate about, back into drama and like teaching people. And
now, you said something before we turned the mics on that was interesting. You said you felt like a lot of your practice was your faith was performative.
Oh yeah. Well,
where does that fit in here?
Now, for a long time in Christian circles, music has been a huge thing, especially worship music, where they would make sure that whatever you have going on, music had to be good. It had to be really sentimental. It had to feel something. It had to draw you in and pull you around. And so that was a big part of how I experienced worship. I would go to these conferences, youth retreats. Youth retreats were huge for me. So you go to these weekends where you would go or camp weeks or whatever. And in the beginning, you're kind of, you're slow getting into it. And as the week progresses, you become a little more open in your expression, your outward expression of worship. And so it was something that was constantly happening. Every single event we went to was like, I start off like just really hesitant, and then by the end of the weekend, I'm balls to the wall, as they say, on fire for God. And it was this constant thing that would happen everywhere I went, every single service. I'd go to services in Quebec that were French and English, but they just translated the song straight across, and they were pretty good at it. Mm-hmm. But it was very driven by emotional, build on music. So the worship part of it was it was a huge part of it. It was the part that drew me close, and I could understand it. I'm like, yeah, this is something you can feel, and if you can feel it, it must be real. And
okay.
So I had this very shallow understanding of what was real. And so, yeah, it was just where I was all the time. I was wherever the feelings would lead me. And it stopped, no, it didn't stop until a few years ago. So, yeah. All right, where were we going with that? All right, so I did have this one youth pastor a long time ago when he said, he started pointing out that there was a certain level of emotional manipulation that was happening. And he was like, I could pray I could play a really heartfelt song, and I could get you guys up here. I could get you guys crying. I know I can. And he was very good at it. Mm-hmm. Very good piano player, very good at just the whole lead to it. Played everything a little fast, but he was very good at it. And so him pointing that out, I'm like, oh, that's just showing how genuine he is. So I still didn't get the lesson. He just told me what he's doing to my face, but I didn't get the lesson of I can manipulate you.
Yeah, as in he was using his tools and rhetoric and the music at his hands to manufacturing you a feeling that would, you would interpret as Holy Spirit, presence, God is real.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it would draw it closer, and so the ends justifies the means. He was going to create this feeling to push you towards God. That's all he's facilitating, really, and it's not about looking back. I'm like, yeah, probably me at the time needed it. I needed somebody around me that would, push me in that direction, because what's a better direction than God? What's a better direction than just like, hey, the more you feel towards this thing, the better. And so, yeah, at the time, I'm like, yeah, it's a good thing. It's good. So, yeah, and I carried that for a long time, and it was wherever the music was happening. Like, looking back, I'm like, I felt foolish. I feel foolish looking back on my youth of allowing my emotions to dictate so much of how I made my decisions.
So that seems like night and day between who I see in front of me now as far as your day-to-day living out your faith.
Yeah.
What changed? Like where did that script flip for you?
I think a big part of it is the people that were lifted in all that. So I was part of, like I said, many services. And there was people that were getting involved, but it was always really shallow. You could tell, like, oh, this is great this weekend. But after this weekend, what are you doing? You're going to get high, you're going to get drunk, you're going to go do your thing, you're going to come back in 2 months, cry, and then you're going to do it all over again. And they were really, like, these are really, like, you could tell they felt it. It was very genuine, and it was real to them. But every few months, it would happen again. And then again. And then again. And it never happened to me like that, because I was the, not the prodigal son. I was the good son. I was the one that stuck around. I didn't go through all the, like, and I started getting really callous of, these prodigal sons get hell of a lot of attention. It's really getting frustrating.
Okay.
I'm like, I am the dedicated servant that sticks around. When you have a problem, you call me. Guess what? I show up. And maybe it became a little bittering because, yeah, I even today, I got a phone call. Somebody needs help. I'm there. How can I help? Well, I need a ride from this place to this place. Yes. It just happened to be convenient. If it would have pushed me back 15, 20 minutes, I would have done it. It would have been fine. But, yeah, there was this idea of the emotions that led these people that I was seeing. I was seeing all of it because I kind of had this step back view of seeing them go through this stuff while simultaneously changing nothing. So the emotions stop mattering because emotion can't be your driving force, because when emotion is your driving force, you're going to chase that. You're going to stop changing. You're going to stop evolving. Sorry. And you're going to just allow the emotions to be your guide. That is your rudder. You're like, whatever leads me to what feels as right as can be. And I was like, no, I need to start taking hold of my rudder. I need to let go of the emotional things. Okay, I don't care if something feels right. I need to start looking, is it right? Is it correct? Is it the most correct? And at that point, I'm going against my emotions. Because if I just let my emotions guide me, I'm going to be really soft with my kids. I'm like, oh, God, I feel for them. It's like, no, that's a trap. I feel like a lot of the time it's a trap when you just let your kids let their emotions lead them. It's horrible. So, yeah, I saw too much of it. Too much of people just being fake and saying one thing and doing another and having the best of intentions and then intentions not meaning shit. Friends saying they're friends and then not showing up. Yeah, and I just got tired. I'm like, no, if I'm going to be the kind of dedicated friend that I want to be, I'm going to do that. I'm going to show up. And I realized when I was a really shitty friend for people, like really horrible. Like I had these girls that they liked me, and instead of saying, I don't like you. I'm like, I'm going to check how this one here pans out. And the thing, I was stupid enough to say it out loud. I said it out loud. And then I realized what a giant piece of shit I am.
Somehow that doesn't surprise me that that would slip out of your mouth. You have a habit of saying the wrong thing at the wrong time to glorious results. It's awesome.
I'm like, oh. So I had this really nice girl that I actually liked for a long time, but they didn't give me the time of day, and then all of a sudden she did, and I was like, I'm going to see how this girl here pans out. And then she's like, you're a real piece of shit. And then I realized what a piece of shit I was. And I'm like, I need to be single longer. So I just stopped pursuing all girls.
Man, I wish more people would say that about themselves. Like, I need to be single longer would solve so many world problems.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And so, yeah, I just took a hiatus off of pursuing the girl that I thought. The thing is, I thought I knew what I wanted in a wife. I'm like, I'm going to look for the most godly woman ever. Quiet, submissive, just boring. I don't know. She was really nice at the time, but looking back, I'm like, I would have blown my brains out. She was really nice, but I'm like, oh, that's not what was there for me. And do I want a gamer chick? No, I want somebody with, that'll push me, because if I just get somebody as complacent and stupid as I am, that's not a good combination.
No, it isn't. Yeah, your marriage shouldn't make you dumber.
Yeah, and I really, because I was really into video games, I was getting pretty good, but if I just got along with some girl that was exactly like me, that's a dangerous situation. She'd be like, what, you can't push me because you're no different than I am. And I'm like, oh no, my wife actually pushes me. Even in doing this, she's like, okay, what is this going to bring? What is this conversation going to bring forth? And I'm like, can't it just be a conversation? So
she's concerned about you, Michael. Yeah. That's all.
Yeah, I get it.
As both of our wives should be.
Yeah, they should. They honestly should. Because we're going to be millionaires one day.
Don't leave us to our own devices. It's not good for anybody.
So, yeah, I got really calloused when it came to allowing my emotions to dictate what direction I was leading my life.
Yeah. Okay, so that's interesting, because like you yourself have stayed since you've been to Fort St. John, since as far as I've known you, you've been at one church. So that means your engagement with this one community must have changed somehow over time.
Well, I don't know if you know this, but when you're trying to meet a lady, you got to go where the kind of lady you want to meet would be. And that was a big part of what I did when I first started going to Evangel. So I realized, okay, there's this girl I like. She goes to Evangel. I'm going to Evangel. And then it didn't pan out. She liked other people, didn't like me that way. She was really quiet and nice, and I had a mohawk. So I realized, okay, maybe this one's not the one for me, but it's a good church. It's fine. I did do a little church hopping in the early days to figure out where I would fit. And I didn't like Evangel at first, because the person this girl introduced me to a couple dudes, and you're supposed to meet some people that you can get along with, right?
Yeah.
She introduced me to the most introverted people I've ever met in my life. To this day, they're still the most introverted people I've ever met in my life, because I haven't seen them in 10 years.
Okay.
Like, just don't see them. They're not around. They don't come to town. They don't do anything. They just live out in the country, and that's what they do. And so I thought they were being douchebags by not talking to me, because I can create conversation. These guys were not reciprocating. There was no...
You got nothing.
Tit for tat. I'm like, these guys are douchebags. No, they're introverts. And the fact that they're at this event was outside of their comfort zone. So, yeah, that was, and I kind of just stayed there. The church had a need. They were like, we need young people to help out with the kids ministry that we have going on. And I'm like, I'm great with kids. Kids like me. I'm not a horrible person. I grew up in the church. I know biblical theory. I like all these things. I'm like, what you're looking for? Like, and they spent time with me. They genuinely hung out with me for 2 hours without knowing me from a hole in the ground. And like, no, we want you to be part of this, what we're doing. And so they had me join up with youth, help out with Kid City, help out in the church. And I'm like, okay, they're giving me a reason. They're giving me a service of something that I can do, physically do. Not just create and like talk and go to worship services. It was like, give me something to do. And then I got involved with the worship team because at the time I was singing in a metal band. Well, who do you want in a metal? Like, who do you want on stage? Somebody who doesn't know anything about music or somebody who loves music? Because if you're in a metal band, you love music. So...
Or chaos.
Or chaos.
It's either way.
So, yeah, I was into music. I was into that circle. And so they were like, oh, we'll get you on stage. So I sang backup a few times. And
Okay. So
guess you didn't know that
right from
either.
the get-go, your involvement was based on a practicality.
Mhm.
Okay.
one, I can find a wife. Two, I could serve. I can do something. I can help with kids. I can get a paintball gun. And they were doing an army theme.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got a paintball gun in there and I actually shot it at a box. And I'm like, see? That's how powerful they are. Not pointing out that I accidentally shot the box. Like it was... the safety was off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, accidents happened, but at the same time, no one got hurt, so we're good. And so, but it was based on service. What can I physically do? What am I good at? I'm good at working with my hands. I said it. Remember when I said, like, I quit a job because I talked. That's all I did was talk and sign papers. And then, but I love working with my hands, so I can actually do something. And I got an opportunity to do that with the church. They gave me an opportunity to serve, to do something.
Okay. So where is it then where this disconnect is happening between people who are close to you and what your actual feeling and needs are?
Well, other people assume that as a good Christian, you need to be going to Bible studies. You need to be going to worship service. You need to be going to prayer for the services. Like, this is just something that good Christians do. Mm-hmm. If you're a Christian, you're going to help others by going to these events.
No, that's not generally what people say. Like, you're going to those events to receive something.
Well, I believe that. I believe that that's what's happening, is you're there to receive something.
Yeah.
But for me, I just feel no draw anymore. I have no desire to go to prayer services. Worship nights... where, yeah, I would have been, like years ago, I would have been there. I would have been front row, hands raised. I would have been, yeah, though, this is what I'm about. You're doing worship prayer nights, still not so much.
Yeah.
I'm very shallow with my prayers. See, if I have a prayer, I pray it, and then I'm done. Why do I need to reiterate? Why do I need to say the same thing a million times? Is God deaf? Does he not understand me when I speak? The desire of my heart is this. Here you go. Cool. Like I don't need to elaborate on it. I can do it. It's fine. Why do I need to make it so pretty? Why do I need to dress it up? Why do I need to drag it out? He's not deaf and he's not dumb. Stop treating him like it's somebody that is. So I don't like prayer services. And worship services just feel so clingy.
Yeah.
Like you gotta just push and push and push and push. And I'm like, no, he is great. He is amazing. God is who he is, and he is all these things. I don't need to sit here and reiterate all the time. He is. And I'm fine with it. And I can get the same feeling as that listening to a great worship album on a CD by myself. Why do I need to go to a group? Why do I need to go to that? And so there was this idea of, why aren't you doing these things? And I'm like, I don't need to. What am I doing? It's all about me there. If it is about me, why do I need to go somewhere? And so I'm like, okay, I can do this on my own. Do I? Not as often as I should. I know that. But I don't, it's maybe I don't feel like I need to. Or maybe I don't feel like I'm, well represented. Deserving. I don't need the focus. I don't need anyone seeing me do it. And if somebody feels like they need to see me doing it in order to recognize that it's happening, I'm like, okay, you got problems. So
yeah. So what charges your spiritual batteries?
As of late, nothing.
Okay, interesting.
Like it's been pretty stagnant lately, and just very much trudging along, but also, yeah, challenging conversations and looking into why I believe something, and is my faith based in truth, or is it just based in convenience? So it's been pretty rough go about it lately.
Okay. That's interesting. You haven't brought that up to me.
No, I don't bring it up to anybody, otherwise we got to deal with it.
Oh, that's funny.
It's one of those things that if you ignore it long enough, eventually you'll die.
Sorry, I was lost up there.
It's really simple. People take life so serious. I've got great life insurance. I'm fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that totally broke my train of thought and concentration.
I realize that. Maybe I do I? Is that a defense mechanism that I have that I just like, okay, I can make this funny so I don't actually have to deal with the conversation and change. So let me just make it funny, and it's easier than actually changing.
Yeah.
Spiritual life is just...
So is that like a really recently thing? Or is that something...
It comes in waves.
Comes in waves? Okay.
It's more recent than anything, but at the same time, it's not like I feel nothing.
Yeah. Has that changed since we left the spiritual environment we were in
a
year ago?
No, not at all. This is like, it comes ebbs and flows, man.
Okay.
Like, I think it should come in ebbs and flows. You should never be on a high all the time. I think you should go through seasons where you're like, I'm feeling nothing. But I know there were times in the last year, multiple times, where I'm like, man, there's something happening in my life, in the people around me, in my children, that I'm like, no, this is real. And I know, I see the value in it. So it's not just this is the way it's been for like 5 years. No, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But...
Well, I'm just wondering if like the lack of presence and pressure has changed things, because that was a big part of the spiritual community we're in, was like, it's like, like you best be on and on fire all the time. Are you a man of God or not?
Yeah.
kind of force.
And
I'm wondering if the release of that pressure has almost been like oh, thank God, and then just, almost like a rebellion against the pressure.
Yeah. No, there was that feeling early in the beginning where it was like, okay, now I need to double down on everything that I was suppressing for years.
Yeah.
Then now I need to drink more, I need to swear more, I need to do drugs. And like, these are things that I just need to do now because I wanted to do them before, but because of the organization, and then that's a horrible reason to do anything. Yeah.
Like, it was almost like it's almost like a bit of like a second adolescence.
Yeah.
Of like as a full grown adult having a second adolescence of rebelling against the constraints.
Yeah, and it was not,
because I felt it too, very pointedly.
Oh yeah, you're like, because I suppressed for so long what I was thinking, what I was feeling, and I couldn't say it, because if I did say it, it would look like disloyalty. It would look like
disrespect.
Or
it would look like you're backsliding.
Yeah, and it was like, no, this is none of those things.
Or not representing the icon of our group.
Yeah, and I was like, this is not what I'm going for here. I'm just trying to ask questions. And now there is something that I did notice. After leaving that group, which is a rough around the edges kind of group.
Yeah.
I love jokes. I love laughing. I love making biblical jokes that are like, oh, that's borderline sacrilegious. Like, just on the border.
Sacrilarious.
I could make those jokes there. And they were like, okay, we hear what you're saying. Yes, it's funny, but we can get back on track. And it's fine. Where...
I need to post the Dear Jesus one on our Facebook page. Not that kind of deer.
Not that kind of deer. So, I've tried going to Bible studies since then, and they're just so damn nice.
Oh, I know. Like, I have,
and I'm like,
pronouncedly felt that too, right? Like, at the same time of like wanting to rebel against the constraints and the suppression and the force to be on all the time, there's also an element of the gruff hyper masculineness and stuff like that I miss. Like, when,
the like, gritty understanding
in the forays into biblical or into Christian culture that I've made since then. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't take this. This is oh, you guys are so banal, and like I know it's that saying it like that makes me sound like I'm looking down my nose hyper hard, and I probably am, but at the same time I'm like, just like, come on guys, like lighten up, or crack a joke, or
stop
just
taking yourself so serious.
ride a damn motorcycle or something. Like, do something.
Do something. And most of them are like, oh, my wife won't let me. I hate that fucking excuse.
Right.
Just
Yeah.
maybe your wife won't let you, but don't tell me that.
Yeah, I've definitely been missing that masculine energy.
Yeah.
And I know that's going to be like, well, that sounds pretty misogynist to say.
Yeah.
Christianity's bigger than that. Well, yes, Christianity is bigger than that, but no, that's not
I'm not.
No, that's not misogynist to say I miss masculine energy.
Yeah.
Like,
I do.
not at all.
I got to hang out with the guys this weekend a little bit on Saturday, and I was like, oh, I miss hanging out with these dudes. And it was just a good time. I'm like, oh, I remembered the good times that I had to walk away from in order to maintain, my
Your conscience.
My conscience, and I'm like,
Yes.
I hate that I got pushed that way because I love those guys
I know.
so much.
I had a memory come across, like, not my Facebook page, but actually like my Google Drives.
Oh, wow.
Alerted me to something. It was us singing Read Your Bible, Pray Every Day as a group with the singer from Petra.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was like, oh, frick, that was a good memory. Like, oh, that was such a fun day. We had Tony and Jughead out from the province over, and we were blowing up expired fire extinguishers with very illegal guns, and then went to a concert. That's such a good day, such a good memory.
I forgot about that weekend.
It's like,
that was a good weekend.
Yeah, like, oh my gosh, like, why couldn't it stay about that level of brotherhood without including all the other stuff? It's such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know for me, like, really personally, like, my spiritual malaise over this last year is part of the symptom of living in that vacuum.
Yeah.
Like, you need to give credit where credit is due. Like, even though it was too much and too overbearing, there was an element of it that did sustain a healthy, I want to say supple spiritual life, right? It kept the heart soft.
Yeah. Yeah. Until it became hard.
Exactly. Until it became hard. And now we're in the season of trying to retill hardened land.
And I really do feel like in a lot of ways I have a hard heart until I see like a commercial with a baby girl in it, or my wife watches it.
Well, yeah, like it's like, it's not the whole heart that hardens, right?
Yeah.
Like, for me specifically, it is the hardness of heart is very much about that, very, very much about that church culture and the kind of like disillusionment of seeing how the meat's made, in that worship environment of hyper Christian.
Literally, you see how the sausage is made.
Yeah.
You have now seen the inner workings
you're like, oh,
of
wow,
the organization.
You're like, this is a slaughterhouse, and like people not in the know don't sense that, but like there's somebody that's getting chewed up and spit out.
Yeah. And you don't see it happening as it's happening. You only see it afterwards.
And not to say that everything is like that, but at some point you're like, this feels too familiar, and then you shut off.
Yeah. And
like, I don't know.
And so I was being challenged today on, what are you actually doing? Why don't you go to these events? And I was I don't need them. I know these people need them. They're fine. Well, like, but here's the thing. Okay, it did remind me, and it does to this moment, of Mary and Martha, where Martha was the worker, right? I believe, yeah. She was somebody who's like, no, we need to get all the food ready. We need to do this. We need to do that. We need to do all these things. Why the hell is Mary hanging out with Jesus? And it was like, no, Jesus was like, no, it's fine. It's good. She's where she's supposed to be right now. Me, I'm a Martha. I'm a worker.
You're missing the rebuke to Martha, though.
I know. No. Hold on. I'm not missing it. Because I'm not smashing Mary for being there. Martha got rebuked because she smashed Mary. It was fine that she was doing those things, but expecting other people to do them is not right. I'm not expecting anyone to be like, oh, but you're not wiping tables down. No, that's my job.
Okay.
I'm fine with them being able to have those moments. I'm really happy for them. I'm glad they have a soft heart and they're able to do this. I can't. But what I can do is I can serve. I can wipe tables. I can set things up. I can organize people.
Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that correction. I'll take that one on the chin. That was,
Thing is,
that was a good take. That's a good take, man.
And that's the thing. You need to recognize just because somebody's doing something different than you doesn't mean that it's wrong. And a lot of people that do that, they're like, oh, they're not doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's shallow because it's actually measurable. You'll be able to see what I've done, and yeah, you have an emotional connection that I have had in the past. I've had that. I've had those connections. And do you know what? Right now, I need to wipe tables. I need to do something that I can measure. And maybe maybe I am dictating that, going according to my feeling because I feel like I'm actually valuable.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you caught it.
I caught it.
Yeah.
I recognize things. But at the same time, I'm like, right now, I don't need to be feeling all the time. I need to wipe table. I need to do something.
Did you say that? In that way?
Yeah. Well, yes and no, but I'm not sure. It came across very aggressive.
Yeah.
And so it may have.
I think you should revisit that conversation in light of some of this.
Yeah.
Like even talking about the fact that like nothing is recharging spiritual battery right now. Like that's not a phase I'm in.
Yeah.
Like that.
I'm still coasting on my last charge, and it's
yeah.
And it has been good. That's the thing. It's not like I'm nothing at all in the last 3 months. I'm like, no, nothing right in this moment is doing it. Did I go up to the associate pastor and be like, hey, man, you said something the other Sunday that really encouraged me? So my pastor did this thing. One pastor does one thing and another guy says something else, which I really appreciate. One pastor will say, put yourself in receiving mode. It's where, imagine you're catching a basket. So you put your hands out as if you're going to receive that thing. Mm-hmm. He says, put yourself in receiving mode. That makes me not want to do it. Like, I don't like being told what to do. It's really bad. I recognize that. Well, simultaneously, I get it, but I don't like being told to do it.
Yeah.
And then another pastor went up, and he's like, I want to break off ritualistic thinking. You need to do this in order for this to happen. It was very much on the, you want this result, and you think you need to do something to get it. It's a breaking of that chain, that idea of if you want to do it, just do it. But don't feel like you have to do it in order to receive anything from it. You don't have to put yourself in this physical positioning in order to get the blessing that comes with it. And so he had this thing of stop trying to earn it. And so I went up to the pastor. I'm like, dude, I really appreciate that. I've been thinking it for years, but when it comes from me, it comes across very aggressive. But if it comes from him, he's a well-spoken guy, really nice. Polite, but at the same time, he's not going to speak out of turn. Mm-hmm. So I appreciated it coming from him. And he's like, you can say stuff like that. I'm like, yes, but I'm encouraging you right now. Because it comes from me, it just sounds like I'm being a rebellious douchebag, which I can do. I'm fine with that.
Which you can do. But, I mean, like, I think over the course of this conversation, you've proved exactly the opposite of you can speak very clearly about things that you think of in a very calm way.
Yeah. I'm capable.
Yes.
It's not as fun sometimes.
I know, sometimes it's fun to be a troll. Oh my gosh.
Oh, the trollery you've got yourself into. But yeah, so, and I realized at the beginning of this conversation, it does sound like I'm, ripping on people that need that emotional connection where I'm like, no, I recognize.
Yeah. No, but I'm glad that we had this conversation because that's very much the sense I got from you before we turned the microphone on.
Yeah.
And that's all gone away.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. You need facilitators. You need people willing to do the work to set these things up. If you have nothing but feeling people all the time, they all like, oh, yeah, I really want to help with this section, but I really feel drawn to be in the worship service right now. It's like, no, I need somebody to make coffee right now. And it's like, no, this is going to keep this thing going. And I'm like, no, we need people like that. We need both. We need everybody. I'm a very inclusive person. Fuck! But you need to recognize, not you, but people need to recognize we need facilitators. Stop looking, oh yeah, they're a Martha for sure. Stop it. Leave her alone. You're worse. You're worse. You're spitting on the people that are trying to serve you and trying to make something happen because you're just so busy feeling so goddamn much. I don't like the Marys that.
Now, that being said, I'll push back from somebody who has had a position of being a spiritual mentor before.
Yeah.
Sometimes people are actively trying to avoid their moment with Jesus.
Yes, true.
And looking for any excuse
Yes.
to busy themselves to avoid confronting the logos.
While simultaneously appearing as if they're doing something.
Exactly.
No,
so
that's bad.
there is a time when that needs to be checked on.
Yeah.
I won't say confronted, because how do you know exactly what's going on in somebody's heart? But there is a point where I think there's probably a healthy check that needs to be like, hey, where you at with this?
Yeah. Yeah, and there needs to be that. You need to have that somebody who's going to come to you and be like, hey, man, are you actually good or are you avoiding something? Mm-hmm. And it's surrounding yourself with people that actually know you and can speak into your life. And if you don't have somebody like that, get people like that.
Yeah.
Find somebody in your life that'll call you out on your bullshit, who sees what's going on when you're isolating yourself. And you're like, dude, you need to come hang out. You need to get out of your house. You need to, I realize you've had a long week, but you need to get the hell out. You need to just come hang out, chat, pray, whatever you think you need to do.
Had a big time, element of that here this week, where got a call from a buddy in Grand Prairie. It's like, okay, dude, time to get your ass over here. Like, we're going to tie into some tequila and enjoy company and not being isolated in the dead of winter.
Yeah.
Just, this is happening.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, but you need to drive here.
Yeah. You need to do all the work.
You need to do all the work, but I appreciate it. It was like, okay, yeah, we're getting out of the house. Family trip. Let's go.
Yeah. And so you need those people in your life. If you don't have them, I feel bad for you. Get involved with the group.
Yeah.
Get involved with somebody. Do something. Stop sitting on your ass waiting for people to come to you. The greatest things in our life, we pursue.
Yeah.
You want a great spiritual life? Pursue it. You want a great wife? Pursue her. You want good kids? Pursue them. Nothing that pursues you is ever going to be worth it.
Huh.
God pursued us first. I know. We can just do that. That's a wash. I know. It's fine. But we could never pursue him without him pursuing us. So that's where I'm like, that's fine.
Well, I'm wanting to push back on that a little bit, because there's some things in life that need a mutual attraction.
Oh, well, heck, look at our friendship. I think that's a perfect example. Our friendship is a perfect example of mutual attraction. I enjoy the conversations I get to have with you, the way we break things down, the way we confront each other in situations. While simultaneously, I'm getting that from you, you're getting it from me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
It's not a one-way street. If it's a one-way street, I know people that have tried that, where they're trying to make it happen, but I'm like, dude,
and it just doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You're like, I'm sorry, dude. At some point, I'm stopping calling.
Yeah. So yeah, I do believe in also mutual attraction, but at the same time, if I didn't believe our friendship was worth having, do you think I'd be calling? Do you think I'd be like, hey, we gotta record? No.
Yeah.
Recording's a bonus. So, yeah. Anyways, yeah. The thing is, there's so much to my story that I don't think we can, break it all down. That's just part of it, because there's just so much.
Yeah, no. I thought there was something to explore there about, like, just kind of like what makes you this thing that is ticking in your life right now. Like, like, just try and get a scope of where you're at, because I feel like that's been a lot directed this way as of late.
Yeah.
And I wanted to turn the tables.
Really, honestly, as of late, it just feels like I have to do something. Like, physically do something. Pursue, work, put my hand to the plow. There's a reason that the Bible uses these analogies of putting your hand to the plow. It means you're doing something measurable. And I do believe we need to do things that are measurable sometimes. You can actually see what's coming from it. You may not see directly. You might see a plowed field and be like, how did that field get plowed? Oh, it just got plowed. No. somebody had to go do it. And so when you see events going on, I'm at the season of I need to be doing something measurable.
And you know what? Like, I would like to say, in regards to that, doing your job well qualifies. Or building something in your backyard qualifies. Tilling your garden qualifies as not only just doing something, there's something spiritual about it. There is something of actual consequence for your soul to spend your life working and doing measurable things that you can sit back, look at with a certain amount of satisfaction for a job well done and effort spent on it, self-poured into it, be like, that's a good thing in and of its own.
Yeah.
And walk away from it, and not have to over-spiritualize or metaphysicalize it.
Yeah.
Building the shed in your backyard it's a good thing to do.
Yeah. But you don't think about the shed all the time. You're not going to be sitting there as like, I built a shed 20 years ago, and look, it's not even it's still technically standing. That's no good.
Yeah, that's actually one of the rules. If you want to be a Benedictine monk, one of the rules you do is work. Part of your spiritual formation is going and tilling the field.
I didn't know that.
It's it's going and washing the bathroom, going to make your bed is actually considered salvific spiritual work.
Yeah.
It's not all of it, but it is a part of it.
It can't be.
It's a part of a healthy spiritual life is the ability to work with your hands and find satisfaction with it for its own sake.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really neat thing that we don't think of in a hyper-spiritual setting all the time.
No, because people are... You can't measure spiritual growth.
Yeah.
You could with really good, learning all the right answers, but you can't actually test it. Mm-hmm. Be like, because the answers they gave us all the right answers.
Yeah. Oh man, I like that. Sorry, just this idea crossed my mind of the spirituality of Martha.
Yeah. Now, if she would have had a better heart about it, that was her problem.
That definitely was her problem. But the spirituality of the person that is putting work into the overall thing, just the physical sweat equity, into life is a real thing.
Yeah.
Some of the disciples had to pick up baskets and go pick up junk off the floor, after the feeding everybody that Jesus did.
But when you do it with the right heart, it never gets rebuked, right?
Yeah.
So there was probably hundreds of times that it was done right, but the one time that it got rebuked is the one that everyone focuses on. Yeah. And they're like, oh, Martha did this wrong. Instead of saying, no, people had to be doing it all along.
Yeah.
There had to be facilitators. There had to be somebody putting in the actual physical grunt work to make these things happen.
It's consistently behind the scenes.
Oh, yeah. But the heart in that moment needed to be addressed, and I agree with it. I agree with it. You need to address the heart. If you're not doing the work, you're not doing you're not growing. You're not contributing. No. Watch your heart when you're doing it. What is your heart in these events?
Yeah.
So that's
great. That is such a neat thing.
You feel like we got something out of that?
I feel like we got something out of that. For somebody out there needed to hear that it's okay to be Martha if you're not being bitter that somebody else isn't helping you.
Yeah. And that's the thing.
That's fantastic.
That's fantastic. You're happy with that?
I'm happy with that. Let's call that a day.
All right. I really got to piss. And we're going to record one of Devin's after this, and it's going to be great. So, dude, God bless.
Yeah, God bless, guys. Good night.
Don't be a dick. Music has been brought to us by Kirk the Riffer Wells at Liquid State Audio. He is a guitarist, producer, and mixing engineer. Thank you from the Blue Collar Philosophers.